trajectory we have seen in recent times, that in the next rainy season, we are not going to be having either the same conversation or even from a place that is far worse than we are seeing right now?
I mean, just as you've always said, we are not ready for that conversation, and if we have to start the conversation, we know that some person have to take responsibility, because when you look at how much of funding that we see from international donors in terms of managing climate, in terms of environmental challenges and all of that, you see that we can't really track. This is where Nigeria probably is forecasting. This is the future that we are investing. These are the issues we are talking about addressing in terms of orientation. Many people do not even know about what they can do to save the environment. Many people do not even know what they can do to also see how they can also contribute in protecting the environment. We are talking of climate. Many people do not even understand the climate. Can we begin the conversation by breaking it down for people to understand what they need to do in terms of situations like these, and what they can do anytime matters arise? So you know that it's a big role for the part of government in terms of orientation. It's a big role for the environmental ministry to understand that. I mean, every year we see very sad situations where sometimes flood. If you look at the statistics, what we have, that over 1 million people have been displaced. In terms of statistics of how much this disaster have cost Nigerians. We've seen people over homes, children, over 200 children are still missing. They had to deploy, army just to be able to, rescue mission and all of that. So we are always running after, managing the situation, managing, an event that have already occurred. Can we begin to see how we can avoid these issues? The dam that was soaked away, what was the response of government? Then did they pay attention to those infrastructures and all of that? So I mean, we can't really sit, as we always insist, the conversation has to get started when people taking responsibilities.
You see, we talk about NEMA every now and then when we find ourselves in a situation like this, but quite as a matter of fact, NEMA is supposed to be a responsive agency, so to speak, because NEMA is not supposed to be the one to tell you what to do per se. Exactly. Besides, if NEMA were to even give you some sort of advisory, the question is, will NEMA now force your hand into action? Of course, the answer is no. Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMES, before now had told different states, particularly these states that had been forecast to be adversely impacted by this flooding, to say, look, you've got to, amongst several other measures, set up camps for people who will be well displaced on account of this flooding. So the question is, what did the state governors do about that? Many state governors do nothing better than blame federal government the whole day. So they have to blame federal government to come into office.
Waiting to receive more billions.
Of course, allocations.
Over 3 billion have also been given to Bono in terms of managing the situation. And if you look at the IDP, it's already overcrowded. Because this was the IDP they had during the insurgencies, the Boko Haram issues and all of that. So now people that are actually affected by the flood have also been pushed to this. So it's also posing another challenge, a health challenge of Colorado. We've been fighting the Mpox. We've been fighting
outbreak of diseases.
I mean, it's another sad situation we can really see coming from IDP camp. But let's get to papers and see what basically are having for us this morning. We'll go on a break, and once we return from the break, we'll be looking at what the newspaper this morning has for us. Please stay with us.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Well, thanks. I'll take a look at the papers for you. Everyone, of course, as expected, papers will be quite loaded this morning. Incidentally, we're beginning with the Daily Trust's newspaper. Big story right on the front page of it says Borno flood, over 30 confirmed dead. That's on the front page of the Daily Trust. It's a big story, quite frankly. Has 4 riders accompanying it. The first one reads, a food shortage hits Maiduguri, 719 rescued from rooftops. Trees. That's how far the winds, the flood had blown people, all right? Rooftops and trees. Trapped patients, residents seek urgent assistance. FG offers 3 billion naira support. Well, I don't know how far-reaching that support will be, but we can see, even for those of us who are not physically in Maiduguri, how much of impact this is having. And Maiduguri is in the spotlight for this reason. But we also need to realize that it spreads across the states in that belt, all right, in the northeastern part of the country. However, Maiduguri happens to be a worse hit, unfortunately. Key takeaways from Harris Trump debates, just to mention that is a strong strand in our discussions of the program this morning. More troops in Zamfara as Turji's 30 million naira levy deadline lapses. Afenifere Gani Adams criticized Tinubu over hardship. Will criticism solve the problem? What should the president and his government be doing at this point? Well, those are questions to which we should provide real-time answers as well. Only 32 officers policing 200 villages in Katsina. No other person than the governor of the state himself, Governor Diko Rada, is the one to whom that is credited. Innocent unveils first locally produced electric vehicle. I find this very interesting, Mike. This electric vehicle thing. EV is a big phenomenon in the world right now. Yes, whether it's Europe, continental America, or even some forward-looking nations on the Horn of Africa are now saying, look, let's go green. If he wants to say let's deal with environmental issues, it has to be something we make commitments to. Now, Innocent is said to be ready to unveil first locally produced electric vehicle, but we also know how indigenous automobile industry has suffered in this country. Do you see that as a breakthrough or something that probably will get stifled midway?
I mean, when you look at the direction of where we are going to in terms of the hike in petrol, so one may begin to imagine what should we do to see how we can live with it, because right. Now looking at the product is getting expensive every year and every day. When you look at electric vehicles, I think Kubana actually brought that up, and as last year he introduced some of this importation of those vehicles, and now we're seeing Innocent trying to cube behind that, and also seeing how he can from his own manufacturing company produces all these vehicles. It's a way to go, because we can't right now rely on petrol. When you look at CNG buses, the government had even said, oh, that's what will introduce to cushion the effect of the hardship. But we can't really measure that those things are in place. So should we continue to rely on petrol? Should we continue to rely on that? So it's a way to demystify the situation out of where we've gotten ourselves into, because it looks at the way to go is seeing how we can live without petrol, because Nigeria right now is really hitting hard. We know the increase in the petrol has affected the market prices. Transportation is also on the high side. Right. So an expert, I was speaking with an expert, he said, can we have it that we increase petrol price, and then you go to the market and market prices are still the same. You go to hospitals, bills are still the same. Every sectors are still the same, even when there's an increase in the petrol. So, but we can't get that, we can't get to that.
It's not economically realistic.
It's not realistic, because we're still depending solely on petrol. So if we can have these vehicles, on our roads, it's a way of also seeing that, we can also get started in terms of seeing how we can address other sector inflations when we have our increase in petrol price.
It's a good place to live it. But then another headline here reads, Nigeria records 6.9 trillion surplus as foreign trade hits 31.89 trillion naira. Okay, what's more, at the foot of the page, that's the Daily Trust newspaper, 694 die of Lassa fever, cholera, diphtheria in 8 months. Quite a sad tale to tell there, but Incidentally, that's the much we have from the Daily Trust this morning. Adikon will take us through the New Telegraph.
Now to New Telegraph, big story on the New Telegraph. Flood. NCDC warns of possible disease outbreak in Borno. Other states. You can find that on page 2, 4, 5, and 6 in reactions respect to flooding. And the writer to the story has it that as floods cut off 5 Kaduna communities, protects those living in flood plains, Pandev tells FG. APC seeks humanitarian assistance for victims. We have a couple of other reactions. Presidency NAS devising strategies to assist victims. And that's coming from the Speaker, Abbas. NLC fault report says a general didn't disregard DSS's invitation. That's on page 2 of the New Telegraph. We also have why PDP can afford to lose Fubara to another party by Sani. A reaction there on page 10 of the Nigeria's New Telegraph paper. Hardship. FG moves temporary zero duty on food items. Open letter to the president. There is need to tell Tinubu Nigerians are suffering. Ghania Dams says he stands by his words. That's on page 4. I think this is a chieftain, a former chieftain of APC, or a chieftain of APC, reacting to the issues in the country, writing to the president. I find this very interesting because I think when we're just talking about the political parties in the country, can we begin to see, an ideology system where people are being driven by what the party really stood for? So right now, he's an APC. I think former vice chairman of the party also reacting to the fact that, the hardship is real, Mr. President. Right. Can you begin to see how you can address some of these situations and all of that? So it's a concern that even as a party member, you're seeing that the country works because you put the country first before the party. That's right. It's really from the side of patriotism.
It is. The thing is, you talked about ideology, but I think Nigeria is still playing around that, quite frankly. Right. Because, you see, now people are having the conversations around the inaugural debate, as I'd like to call it, between the presidential candidates of the Democratic Party, talking about Vice President Kamala Harris, and that of the Republican Party, former President Donald Trump. They're saying, look, we didn't fast-check enough. We're only fast-checking Trump. We're not fast-checking Kamala Harris. They're saying, well, Kamala Harris has had to change her positions time and again on issues around gun control, abortion, and what have you. That Trump has had to change his own, stance on Roe v. Wade and all of those issues that affect everyday Americans, and stuff like that. They are talking from a standpoint of ideology. There has to be a conviction.
Absolutely.
So your grandfather was a Republican, for example, based on ideology, based on certain fundamental principles that formed the basis of his persuasion, politically and otherwise. So your father takes over from him. You take over from him. Your son takes over from you. So you have 4-6 generations of Republicans, of Democrats, of independents. In Nigeria, it's as if what you have for dinner can influence what party you join by breakfast time the next morning. You see, sounds hilarious, but it's crazy, it's irresponsible, it's unserious. Because ideology drives political parties and the actions they take. Look at the major parties in Nigeria right now. They all have internal wrangling. Some of them even stemming from how people were thrown up in the build-up to the 2023 general election. So somebody saying, yes, I'm not going to leave this party, I'm still going to be in this party, but I'm disgruntled about how you conducted the affairs of this party going into the last cycle of general elections and things like that. And they were asking yourself, what exactly is the leadership of these parties, whether it's the APC today, the PDP tomorrow, APGA the next day, Labour the day after that, what are they doing? As of today, we are still having issues in the Labour Party as to who is the leader of the party. Is it Mr. Peter Obi and Dr. Alex Oti, Abia State Governor on the one hand, or the Julius Abure-led faction of the party? Meanwhile, there's the Apapa faction. Meanwhile, there's a third faction of another gentleman who says he's supposed to be the bona fide chairman, national chairman, that is, of the party. You see, we can't spend our lifetime discussing political parties in Nigeria, but we also cannot pretend about the impact of their irresponsible behavior sometimes.
I think what the comments we've also seen in this country where someone said, I mean, these other parties malaria, these other parties typhoid. I would rather treat malaria instead of having typhoid to have a whole time to treat.
So you choose your evil.
So you choose your evil. So we've seen those hard bars, but I mean, just as we said, we can't really hold them by the words. Politicians have a way of saying anything, on the heels of elections.
Right.
Afterwards, they can always go back and sit on the same table because we've also seen where they are not bitter. It's only the followers that takes it to another level. But
They take it personal.
I mean, you see the number of attacks during elections and all of that. So it's a way also a concern that, I mean, can we also begin to see that party members, can really criticize some of the policies, of their party
while staying committed to the values of the party. That is, if the party has values.
I mean, it's a way that we shouldn't, allow value to, be degraded in the country, right? In society, because it's a way of also the younger generation seeing what the elders are doing. Oh, if this Mr. A was standing on the grounds, on this other side, but has shifted his ground due to this. I mean, no one can really trust the system again.
Right.
And we can't really lost out the values even in the political system because that's the recruitment process of this country. We've not had a single party, a single candidacy situation in the country where anyone can really be a president on his own. You definitely have to pass through the political parties. So
that's talking about the independence candidacy.
Independent candidates.
We're not started that.
We've not started that. So it means that political parties still have a whole role to play in recruiting leaders in the country, and that's why we must have that concern so much. Let's get to still finalize issues on the New Telegraph. We also have it as Adele Giba. IG orders says the policeman is over 35,000. That's in terms of mobilization for ahead of the Edo elections. You can find that story right there on page 5, 6. Of course, having to break down more details. 20 aspirants for Kano LG failed drug test. NDLEA. That's on page 4, 5, and 6. Having issues of a drug test.
Right.
The pre-elections rituals where candidates are subjected, for that.
The drug test.
But we can also not really find sometimes confidence on some of these issues because where the transparency is lacking the transparency
in terms of the testing.
The testing, because we've not seen where they've published. I mean, because it's a public office, so people expect to also know, the publications at the end of the day, where we can really say, oh, this is what this was, so it can become, a useful, and a working document in terms of the future occurrences. But I mean, institutions of the country has also been abetting some of these situations, putting some of these candidates, putting on some of these politicians, to shy away from what are the hot to do. But because in other climes, people have records of, this is your health status, this is your financial status, this is the capacity you have, and these are the things you do. So we are also seeing that if we must get the local government autonomy right, we must begin to see how we can recruit persons with character and that really have what it takes to drive, because we can't afford to lose the kind of funds that will be allocated to the local government to the hands of people that are just joking around.
You see, I'm concerned about these tests because just a few days ago, in the course of this current week, a chieftain of the APC in Edo State, of course, Edo State, by the way, has its own election coming up in about 9 days, right, from today. So Kasim Afegboa is a chieftain of the APC in the States, and then he happens to also be a member of the campaign organization of the Monday Okpebolo team. Now he's saying that all the major candidates of the different parties in this election should be subjected to drug tests. Kano has started, for example. The question is, will Benue follow? Because Benue also has grassroots elections coming up. Of course, Anambra has grassroots election coming up. Ogo has grassroots election coming up. So you have a couple of states around who do. In the case of Kano, I understand, for example, Edikon, that it's a 40 local government area state. So if there's anything to go by, and then if these reports credited to the NDLEA is going to mean anything to Nigerians and indeed the good people of Kano State, the question is, what do we do if 20 of the people who are all else equal supposed to be elected to represent or lead half of the local government areas or councils in that state are said to have failed drug tests? What do we do going forward? Do we say these are drug heads? Do we say they are druggies? Do we say they are, on account of these tests, not eligible, not qualified, not capable, not competent to lead? You see, we've got to have the real conversations. I think that one of the problems fundamentally we've had in this country is we pretend a lot. We play the ostrich. We leave the elephant in the room. We are digging for the ants. We have done that since independence. It has not paid off. It has happened very badly to our oil industry. It has happened to our financial sector, whether you're talking about the monetary policy or the fiscal policy. It has happened to our politics and our polity. It has happened to our leadership, whether public or private in this country. And then you're asking yourself, 6 decades and counting as an independent sovereign state, is it not time we stop pretending and look at ourselves in the face and have organic conversations? Well, again, maybe we need to wake up tomorrow and realize we suddenly have the courage to do that. But the question is, are we concerned about the people we bring into public office? Because we still have a situation in this country, Edikon, where it is not so much about a governor who is corrupt. In fact, who has been indicted with overwhelming evidence. It is about the people supporting the governor. So you now have
And the expectation of the people.
Right. You now have a state, a situation where it is about, well, yes, we know the governor is a thief. Living for us is our thief. So what's the big deal? But we must have a true, very, if you like, frank conversation about how we want to lead ourselves. You can't be the guy crying about your local government chairman stealing public funds, and then you're also the one to throw your weight behind him to support him tomorrow when the anti-graft agencies come.
We can't exhaust this conversation because the issues are so big that if we meet the public office order today, he'll tell you that sometimes the constituents have to call him for bills. The same constituent that is expecting you to construct road, the same constituent that are expecting you, to assist them in
provide healthcare, pipeline water,
sometimes employment,
education,
health, all of that. So these are the same persons that called you for some basic family issues they have. So imagine that in a constituent where you have about 10 local government on the province, how would you cover? How would you respond to everyone who I need? And also see how you can deliver on the mandate of some of these provisions as a representative. So a concern that the followers are also a problem. Can we really allow some of these leaders to do their main job?
Right.
Because we've seen people giving out hundreds of appointments, 50 appointments. What are they giving it to? Just to compensate those who were supporting them. But they shied away from the fact that the main responsibility is to put things in place in terms of responsibility, tracking, some of this infrastructure. You are bringing from the federal government down to the people. So the leaders are also facing a pressure that, we are having more concern that every time they do this and do that. But, we can also, give that as an excuse that some of them are also living some lives that are not in tandem with what they ought to. But, in a way, our public sector is a whole lot of concern. Civil service have to also see that we can see revamping that sector, and also knowing that when you're in the public office, you're serving the people, and the people should really matter and should be put forward to.
Totally agree with that.
Completion of the paper on the right there, 10 killed, 3 injured in recent Oyo farmers headers clash. Neymar, as on page 30. 47 million Nigerian children live below poverty line. UNICEF, as on page 2. And terrorism financing, reshuffling in some for our civil service after leaked memo. Right, that says government didn't release money to bandit. Let's just quickly react to Nigerian children live below poverty line. That's coming from the UNICEF. The issues of poverty again and again and again. And when you look at the policies of government, it looks at, we are having a very long way to go, because this is where we said we can't really have a middle class right now. It seems we have the rich and the poor.
Two extremes.
And then when Kamala was speaking yesterday, he said, we have to encourage the middle class, because they are the workers, they are the taxpayers, they are those contributing to the America that they are really looking for. So it means that there's a whole lot of role played by the middle class. These are not the ones that are poor, these are not the ones that are rich, but these are the ones that are really contributive to the nation's building. So poverty line record by the UNICEF is also very worrisome right now.
You see, from a layman's perspective, if their parents are living below poverty line, the children by default will live below poverty line. Before today, the multilateral institutions, World Bank in particular in this regard, had told us that you had over 33 million Nigerians living within what they call the frame of multi-dimensional poverty. All right, so let's be clear for perspectives. When you say poverty, it is one thing. When you say multi-dimensional poverty, you are having a different conversation altogether, which means it's more like poverty, left, right, and center, top and bottom, inside, out, and what have you. What's the point? The point here is, while we can have an issue with all of these data coming out from these Bretton Woods institutions, whether it's UNICEF today, World Bank tomorrow, and so on and so forth, we must also have the maturity and find the balls or the courage to ask ourselves, are we doing enough to eradicate poverty? People have said in Europe that Africa has no business with poverty. But the question is, why won't you have to live with poverty when you have a broken leadership system? It's very important. Our case is one that is both pathetic and instructive at the same time. Nigeria has oil. Nigeria is one of the 10 biggest producers of oil on earth as it stands today. But the question is, has that oil been a blessing to Nigeria and Nigerians? Of course, your answer is as good as mine, because we've all lived here our entire life. Now, add to that the fact that we are still struggling after 1 year of inauguration with whether or not the Dangote refinery should take off.
I mean, someone tweeted yesterday that just anytime you remember the country, remember that at the morning of May 29, 2023, fuel was at 197 naira.
So whatever you do today, you must always circle back to that reality. But then, by noon of that day, the narrative has changed, and that has led to where we are today. Nigeria is a blessed country. In fact, that is trite to say, because it's obvious all around us. I mean, look at the minerals that we have across this country. Whether you are going to southwest, you are going to southeast, or you are going to south, of course, and then you are coming up north, even to northwest in particular. I mean, minerals everywhere, blessings everywhere, but how do we harness them? Yeah, exactly. Is there accountability? Is there transparency? Does anyone get held accountable where there is an infraction? I usually cite the instance of the president telling us that the subsidy regime was fraudulent and criminal in nature. But the question is, where are those criminals today? What are we supposed to do about them? Give them a slap on the wrist and let them off? Or we say, okay, well, we have a system in place to help deal with them. Have we been able to recover any of those monies that got stolen? Because we understood that people didn't supply any petrol or whatever product within the oil sector, but they got paid for subsidy. So the question is, what was the government subsidizing the entire time? Dele Alake, Minister of Solid Minerals Development, has come to the National Assembly to tell federal legislators that, look, there are powerful Nigerians behind illegal mining. Because let's be clear, there is mining. Yes, there's illegal mining. So who are those Nigerians? Are they in the diaspora? Are they in this country? Even if they are in the diaspora, what is the government doing to deal with them? So the question is, are we even sincere with ourselves? You come and you tell us about how that, well, there are people who are sponsoring terrorism in this country under former President Muhammadu Buhari. Abubakar Malami, as a former Attorney General of the Federation, told us that there were 400 of these people who were already lined up to be tried. And then the conversation at that point was, should they be tried in an open court, or should it be some sort of secret trial? But of course, Malami has left office for 1 year and counting. Nobody is answering to Nigerians as to what exactly has happened to those cases.
We can't exhaust the conversations as always. Let's get quickly to other papers this morning.
Incidentally, we're turning now to the Nigerian Tribune for you. We will begin with the stories above the nameplate. We have 3 headlines just above the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. It says, first here, top left corner, after 10 months, Plateau Speaker swears in APC lawmakers. Incidentally, had to take that long. Financial institutions must be part of counter-terrorism. That conversation is long overdue, but again, it's credited to Malam Nuhu Ribadu, the National Security Advisor. And bad governance, court admits 10 protesters to 10 million naira bail each. The writer says, Fenife fought treasonable charges against them. You know, Deji Adeyanju, one of the persons who also led the protest and happens to be one of the lawyers, said that he is surprised, like many Nigerians, that these people are not being charged for protesting. Instead, they are charged for treason. But the question is, what evidence did prosecutors bring against them? That's very key in law, because law is not about your emotions or your sentiments. Absolutely. Or how you feel. What evidence did the prosecuting team bring against them? For example, there were issues around people waving Russian flag. We all know that you can't be waving another country's flag on the soil of Nigeria. Nigeria is a sovereign, independent entity. All right, so there are things that should not be done. I mean, so much so that even senior lawyer Femi Falana said that, yes, I mean, as a lawyer, I know that you have the right to protest peacefully, lawfully, and of course, you have to do that demonstration within the ambit of the law. However, you can't wave a Russian flag in Nigeria. and expect that there won't be repercussions. And again, that's what we need to ask ourselves. For those who were in court on that day, who have followed this matter the entire time, what evidence did the government bring against these people? And
it's also a very, sometimes, it must be a sensitive action by the government, understanding the fact that the timing of trying these ones are also a concern. The underlying issues are the hardship.
Right.
The hunger, these are the realities that many Nigerians are saying, oh, rather pay attention to those things. We understand people took advantage of the situation. We understand there was a destruction. We understand there was a whole lot of abnormalities in the course of the protests. But can we really pay attention to what triggered the protests so as not to really have these situations occurring over and over again? But when you look at the fact that when we're just coming out of the protests, but government, NNPC, out of their own insensitivity, had to increase, the petrol product. So it's also a concern that are they paying attention to the questions and the concerns of Nigerians? Because before people went on the street, there were issues. What is the effort of government to addressing some of these issues? The presidency responded yesterday that the subsidy, what we are saving from the subsidy is what's to use or is used for infrastructure. But which infrastructure can we really point out that is really working in the country today? So the question is, where are the savings from the subsidy? We can't really substantiate. When they talk about palliative, the governors are not doing their best, so the federal government are not holding the responsibility. So we must begin to answer these questions just as they are. If you say you remove subsidy, where is the infrastructure? Where are you? What are the short term? Forget about the long term that you're taking Nigerians to. So these are the questions many Nigerians are asking. Away from trying them in the court for treason, can you begin to answer the questions the protesters were asking?
You see, thing is, Nigerians will say, well, if you had given us a valid reason as to that increase in the pump price of petrol, it would be one thing. But it's a different kettle of fish altogether when you tell us that you would have to increase or do an upward review of the price of petrol, because that's one very key measures you need to put in place to be able to fight smuggling. So Nigerians have to pay for petroleum products that are stolen from this country, even though Nigerians are not the one who are
the responsibility of the security agencies.
Yes, because last year the NSA himself, Nuhu Ribadu, had told us when he and Mr. Haneke and Lokbobiri and a few other persons had gone to the Niger Delta to do an on-the-spot assessment of infrastructure or the installation and security issues around, oil facility and what have you. That look, Nigeria loses. This is coming from the NSA. That should be authoritative. Nigeria loses 400,000 barrels of crude every day, not petrol, crude, which means in its organic form, 400,000 every day. Some people say, well, even the NSA was probably being conservative with that figure. But let's say for the purpose of this conversation, that's exactly what we lose, 400. If you do the math, it means in a 30-month calendar, you would have lost 12,000 barrels of crude. Now, if you again go to the international market and ask yourself, what's the price of crude? And then you do the math.
And how much of liters petrol that
can come out and buy products from it. Of course, we know we can't be talking about refining now because the Dangote, petrochemical refinery is still an issue of controversy. Of course, our refineries are not working and so on and so forth. But in all, the point we're making with all of these is that there's some truths that Nigerians are not being told. And you talked about the issue of savings from suspension of subsidy payments a while ago. The federal government has told us that. Have you not noticed, everybody, this is the federal government talking to Nigerians, have you not noticed that allocation to your respective states has shot up significantly? Therefore, go back to your governors, ask each of them, what exactly were you receiving before now, Your Excellency? What are you getting now? And what exactly are we putting this money in? You see, the governor too have been part of the problem. In fact, at least we can say that they've even further complicated the problem, because the governors are not accountable to the people. That much is evident in what we see from state to state across all 36 states. How many governors have come out since May? Okay, let's even say by end of June to say, look, we used to get 1 naira every month on the average, or baseline 75 kobo as allocation. But on account of this suspension of subsidy payments, we are now getting 2 naira 50 kobo. Therefore, this will now be our priorities going forward: infrastructure, health, education, job creation, wealth creation, agriculture, and so on and so forth. Those are the conversations that we expect that governors will be having with their people. No, they won't do that. Instead, they are quick to direct protesters to the federal government to say, don't worry, we'll take your pleas and your concerns and your requests and your demands to the federal government. So it looks like the guy is not around. So when your guy comes, we'll let him know that you were here today, and we'll also convey your demands. It doesn't work like that. Because when you are asking for votes to come into office or to seek a second term, you don't say you need the president to do that for you, or you need the federal government to help you with that. Instead, you do it yourself with your team on the ground within your state. So when it comes to taking responsibility, governors must sit up and do the job they were elected to do in the first place, right? Okay, let's look at the star story for you on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune today. It says, Edo PDP threatens not to sign peace accord. Why will they do that? Well, the writers probably will provide some clarifications. Obaseki accuses police of waging war against party. Party liberals wreck Commissioner of Police Wike's associates. You have nothing to fear. INEC assures PDP extends PVC collection for 5 days. PDP's accusation empty, or attempts, you should say, yes, to stop investigation of idled policemen, that's IGP. We are satisfied with INEC, police commitment to neutrality, that's APC. Police to deploy 35,000 personnel, BVAS, IREV compulsory in Edo, Ondo elections, that's INEC. INEC should also know that the commission will be held accountable for these promises. You've said you will deploy BVAS and IREV. You will make their deployment compulsory. We look forward to that. Reps move to address non-implementation of directive to move universities from IPPRS. That's a directive that was given long before today. All right, what's more, a woman slumps, dies while giving testimony in church. Quite a sad story there. Mpox vaccination is mostly used for prevention, not treatment or cure. That's credited to an expert. And then there's a picture of General Abdulsalami, retired, here with Governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki. There you can read up that story as well when you pick up a copy of the Nigerian Tribune today. Food shortage hits Maiduguri as governor says over 1 million people displaced by flood. UN warns against cholera outbreak, malnutrition in IDP camps. Adikon and I talked about that a while ago. Yobe issues fresh flood alert to 9 LGAs. But let's cycle back, Adikon, to the election coming up in Edo State in 9 days. The PDP is now threatening to say, look, we are not going to sign this peace accord. They are accusing the Commissioner of Police of being a Wike loyalist, or maybe a boots on the ground for the FCT minister and so on and so forth. But I'm not sure, as journalists, this is something new. We've seen back and forth with elections, time and again, one party accusing the other, you know, because the APC can also wake up and say, well, there's some support coming for the PDP being the incumbent party.
Absolutely.
In the states, you know, and so on and so forth. But how do we make sense of all of these? Because elections must hold on the 9th of this month. I mean, in 9 days' time.
I mean, the politics in Edo, the tension, I mean, has always been so high because it looks at the three political parties are having a very tough times right now. I mean, when you look at Labour Party is also a factor.
Right.
The outcome of 2023 elections, I understand that Labour Party is rooted in Edo. They've also had House of Reps member and of course a senator at the National Assembly. So it looks at it's not just a pushover party. So a consideration of the fact that APC on the other hand are saying, Obaseki, I mean, what's your track record? What have you done? What are your footprints? Obaseki, the other end, said we can't continue to, we can't continue the regime of the APC. We can't go back to that regime of all of that. So godfatherism has also been a factor there, and issues, one name calling and all of that. But in a way, I feel the ball is in INEC. INEC holds the responsibility of conducting election and allowing the people's vote to count. I think when we get to that point, we can really have the confidence in the fact that no matter what the gladiators are saying, the comments, the consideration, the godfatherism factors, the zoning factors, it's just about who the people of Edo really, really want at this time. So the ball is in INEC. INEC has a role to play. I understand the issue of insecurity. IG was there yesterday, to talk with its stakeholders. Over 35,000 police have been mobilized for that election, from what the IG said.
35,000.
35,000 police
Right.
have been mobilized. So, in consideration of the fact that what are the roles of the security agencies? Are they to secure polling units, or are they to intimidate voters in terms of going out to vote? Because we've seen instances where sometimes the police are also used, as an instrument to cause fears and havoc in some polling units. So it's also a role that the IG understand that it's also a time that the security agencies must be independent of, political parties. They are not members of the political parties. We do not understand that they should be in APC. They should be supporting APC. So their role is to just go there to the polling unit and also, provide security for both APC and PDP, Labour Party, and every other party that will be standing in for election. So if people are responsible, if people are doing their job, I feel we will not probably have any sad situation. But in the moment where people are compromised, that's where we'll always sometimes we'll go back to sad situations where issues and over again, we can't really say elections in the country are probably transparent. So it's a whole tax ahead of INEC, a whole tax ahead of the security agencies.
That's right. It's also disturbing, Adikan, how that at this point we're still talking about 35,000 people, policemen being deployed to an off-cycle election, one state. It raises the question of whether or not we are committed to the issue of fighting insecurity. Because if you deploy 35,000 policemen to just one state, keep in mind by November 5th we are going again to Ondo. So how many thousands, because it has to be in tens of thousands, are you going to deploy in Ondo? Meanwhile, we have a lot of crazy things happening up north, southeast, and a few other parts of this country today. Recall that in the last 10 to 15 years, we've particularly been struck with the conversation of the numerical strength of the police. We're not even talking about their welfare right now. We're talking about the numerical strength. How many policemen do you have? Yeah. Some years ago, I should think sometime in 2012, there was a very concerning report, in fact, I should say disturbing report, that was done by private TV in this country that actually spotlighted the states of things at the police college in Ikeja. Then President Goodluck Jonathan paid an unscheduled visit to that college, and he also expressed his disappointment. The video is on YouTube for Nigerians to watch, by the way. And at that point, he did say that what he found as the president at that time, firsthand, not what he was told by way of reports or third-party feedback, that look, it's as if we are training. This is like a poultry. It doesn't look like where you raise policemen who will safeguard the nation, who will do policing on behalf of the country. All right. There was that concern at that time. And then he did say at that point that Nigeria had something in the neighborhood of 300,000 policemen. All right. The question is, has that number gone up since that time? Because people have resigned from the police, people have retired, some have passed away on account of insecurity and what have you. But the question is, as it stands today, what is the numerical strength of the police? Then must we always have a situation where we must deploy police in this number and then must election be on a Saturday? Can't we begin to think about how we can have early voting like we see in civilized climes? Early voting, who says Edikon cannot step out during his lunch break today to say, I want to go cast my vote? Must he wait till the weekend, till Saturday? We shut down the whole state. I can assure you, in 2 Saturdays' time, Edo State will practically be shut down, particularly the city center, because we are having an election in one state in 2024.
Well, a whole lot of concern. We just feel that the moment where we can really have a situation where a whole lot of reforms in the electoral system will also be aware of encouraging future election, off-cycle elections and general elections in the country, because we can't exhaust the concern Nigerians have about elections in this country. We just hope that this Saturday.
That's right. We'll take a look at a few other headlines for you here, but it will appear that's all. So we are going to turn to
The Guardian.
Yes, the Guardian newspaper for you quickly, and that will be our last paper for this segment.
Let's get to the Guardian newspaper. Policing. Amid the lean resources, FG spends 131 billion naira subsidizing VIP's protection yearly. You can find that report on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. We all know the statistics, a breakdown. If we look at the picture, the front page of the 400,000 policemen in the country, 150,000 officers are attached to VIPs and unauthorized persons. a concern. Sometimes you see one with police, he's out in the public office, one a pastor, a religious leader. Sometimes those who probably are not deserving. You know, we're just talking about mobilization of 35,000 just for election. Are you concerned that after the elections, where are our policemen? Because we just have a few number of them standing on the street and all of that, and our places are not severely protected. But we see that VIPs are probably, you know, with a whole lot of some of these men who probably are mounting their homes, their offices, and all of these issues.
Taking their children to school, dropping their wives off at the markets.
We saw a sad situation, I think, in Abuja, where I think a son of one of the security chiefs, you know, probably was attacked just by an orderly who was also to protect at night and midnight. Because, I mean, that wasn't a working hour, you know, as at 1 a.m. or thereabouts. So, I mean, we are not saying that taking advantage of that situation, I mean, committing that crime was the best, but a concern of the fact that some of our security men have been wrongly mobilized. Sometimes you see them in churches, they have no businesses to be probably following one VIPs or 2, 3 VIPs just to be able to give the protection. These are the people that are supposed to protect their street. They are supposed to protect, you know, some of the public facilities. They are supposed to be at the concern of the responsibility. Because when you look at these statistics of over 400,000, you know, some distributions that we can't really equate to that have been attached to VIPs and unauthorized persons. The question of the unauthorized person have also been a concern. How do we get here? How do they get the permission?
The part that leaves me feeling both intrigued and worried is when you hear a new IG just comes to the office and the first thing he says is, we are withdrawing, or the IG has ordered a withdrawal of policemen from VIPs. You're like, okay, hold on a second. Maybe we are beginning to think in the right direction right now. And next thing you know is, the man that used to have one is now having 2. And then you are asking yourself, is there something wrong, or is there something we are not aware of? How do you say you have withdrawn these policemen from VIPs? The man had one just a few weeks ago. The man only now has 2. Is still the same IG in office. So did the policy change? Was there a counter directive somewhere from maybe above the IG, or the IG just suddenly realized that it was a wrong move he had made earlier and things like that? You see, there has to be some sort of policy consistency with all of these things. It doesn't have to be political, all right? It just has to be doing the right thing on behalf of the nation.
So we can manage what we have, because we can't keep on creating more security, you know,
outfits.
Because if you look at the fact that we have so many of them are even interplaying doing their roles. We've seen in this country where we're saying, oh, how can the police not be asking you of your driver's license? I mean, when we have, you know, the road safety
even at night.
Even at night. So, you know, where the number probably might not be enough, but if properly utilized, if they are well mobilized, if they are well positioned, it may have an impact. It may create, you know, some level of a sense of security in the country.
Right. Okay, I think you still have some headlines from the Vanguard. You want to look at it again? I think time will fail us to go into all of those right now. So Ediko and I will be here all the way through the program, so we can walk you through these papers. Of course, we have big conversations also coming up. We'll be looking at the damage that's been done up north, Maiduguri, Borno State in particular. Then we'll also look at the highlights and the talking points around the debates, the very first of the series, all right, between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and then of course what Nigeria can also learn in this direction going forward. We're back with the rest of the program shortly after the Global AM News. Do stay with us, everyone. Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted.
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen. Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Beautiful work from the wingers!
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Global AM News, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Uyi Agmofwebe. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV, channel 365 and free to air all night comes out. Thousands of Maiduguri inhabitants have been displaced, with the Nigerian Correctional Service recapturing 3 inmates after a jailbreak, while 80% of animals at the Sanda Kiarimi Park Zoo died as Borno State suffered its most devastating flood disaster in 30 years. Following the disaster, President Bola Tinubu, who is currently abroad, called for the immediate evacuation of residents in communities overtaken by floods. 70% of Maiduguri, Borno State capital, has been submerged by the fast-moving waters, and that's according to the National Emergency Management Agency, while the flood also ravaged other major city locations. Minister of Housing and Urban Development, architect Ahmed Dangiwa, has called on architects to address the mounting pressures of rapid rural-urban migration and unprecedented population growth. Dangiwa made this known at the 2024 Aki Built Exposition organized by the Nigerian Institute of Architects in Abuja. Kikolomo Okeri has details.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, architect Ahmed Dangiwa, highlighted the urgent need for innovative and sustainable solutions in the face of challenges by rapid rural-urban migration.
Second, we are also making progress in our efforts to boost the local manufacture of building materials. Early this year, we set up building material manufacturing task team with the mandate to produce a blueprint for developing the sector and building 6 manufacturing hubs, 1 in each geopolitical zones of the country.
Former Vice President Namadi Sambu echoed the call for reimaging cities as dynamic ecosystem. He proposed the establishment of a think tank of architects to provide the minister with practical, innovative solutions for sustainable and affordable housing.
We must commit to building sustainable and affordable buildings with materials that are sourced locally. In a nation blessed with abundant natural resources, it is imperative that we leverage these resources to create architecture that is both environmentally responsible and economically viable.
Earlier, the president of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Mobolaji Adeni, explained that the exposition was aimed at showcasing cutting-edge products, ideas, and technologies poised to redefine built environment.
We also recognize the fact that the construction industry in Nigeria has been plagued with a multitude of problems, stemming from building collapses to the high cost of building materials, and also an alarming deficit of skilled workers. All of this affecting our industry. However, these challenges, which are not just peculiar to our country alone, can be overcome by stakeholders in the built environment. Financial institutions, manufacturers of building materials, relevant government agencies, and the academia.
The Minister of Housing further pointed out that African nations are struggling to keep up with the demand of a population projected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050, with Nigeria alone expected to contribute over 400 million. Kikelomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Okay, Helmo, thank you for that reporting there. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Akwa Ibom State Command, has charged its officers to strive towards improved performance for quality service delivery. The State Commandant, Eluyemi Eluwade, gave the charge during the third edition of the Commandant Quarterly Conference in Ikot Ekpene. Eluwade explained that the conference was held to evaluate performance and security threats in the state and proffer solutions. Are Ona Kakanfo of Yoruba Land, Iba Gani Abiodun Adams, has voiced out his frustration with President Bola Tinubu, saying the president has disappointed many Nigerians who brought him to power. He criticized the president's handling of the petroleum sector, especially the present hike in the price of premium motor spirits, otherwise known as petrol, saying the situation is worsening the hardship in the land. He asked the president to reverse what he called the ugly trend. Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NSCDC, has advised health workers to always practice standard care precautions when caring for patients. Director General of the center, Olajide Idris, gave the advice while keeping journalists abreast with the situation report on Mpox in Abuja. Queen Agaba has details.
Monkeypox is a rare viral zoonotic disease that can be transmitted from animals to humans and between humans. It is endemic in parts of Africa, especially in the tropical rainforest of Central and West Africa. The Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Olajide Idris, advised health workers as well as the public to avoid contact with animals that may carry the virus, including sick or dead animals in affected areas, as well as limit unnecessary physical contact with individuals who are infected.
We are having an increasing number of cases of Mpox in the country, confirmed. From the last time we said about 39, when it came about, now we have 67.
The Director General further advised health workers to ensure samples for testing are collected by trained personnel and sent to the NCDC, adding that all cases should be reported to the state epidemiologist or local government area public health department.
We are likely to be seeing increasing cases of those diseases again. So it is now incumbent on us to prepare now, to start preparing for situations and strategies that will not allow us to see as many of those cases as possible this next season.
He further urged health workers to be vigilant for symptoms of monkeypox, especially fever and rashes, and isolate suspected cases promptly and report them to relevant health authorities. For Global Television, Queen Agaba reporting.
That's Global Television's health correspondent there, Queen Agaba, following up for us. A Delta-based businessman and All Progressives Congress APC chieftain Mauricio Lori has appealed to Nigerians to be patient with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration as he tackles the current hardship in the country. The policies being initiated by the Tinubu administration, he says, are aimed at pulling Nigerians out of poverty, saying that while briefing journalists in Ughelli, Delta States, calling on President Tinubu to lift import duties on food items until local food production is improved. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has predicted thunderstorms and rains from Wednesday to Friday across the country. NIMET's weather outlook released in Abuja envisaged thunderstorms over parts of Borno, Adamawa, Taraba, Yobe, Katsina, Sokoto, and Kaduna states during the morning hours of Wednesday in the northern region. According to NIMET, thunderstorms are expected over parts of Kano, Borno, Katsina, Adamawa, Kaduna, Taraba, Zamfara, Kebbi, and Jigawa states during afternoon and evening hours. At least 16 persons have been bitten by snakes across various internally displaced persons camps in Benue State. The incidents happened in 3 camps within the past 2 weeks. James Iopu, Executive Secretary of the Benue State Emergency Management Agency, also known as Benue SEMA, disclosed the figure during a press briefing in Makurdi, the state capital. He informed journalists during the briefing held ahead of the monthly relief distribution to displaced persons in the states that none of the victims died due to the prompt medical attention they received. Federal Ministry of Works has retired one of its finest directors, Engineer Dedamola Kuti, in the Highways Department. The event took place at the conference hall of the ministry with many dignitaries in attendance. Sharon Ajay completes the story.
Engineer Adedamola Kuti, who started his career with the then Federal Ministry of Works and Housing on the 11th September 1989, now takes a bow as the Director, Highways, Materials, Geotechnics and Quality Control after serving the ministry for 35 years. While speaking on his experiences during his 35 years of service, Engineer Kuti acknowledged that his career has been filled with periods of significant progress as well as obstacles, notwithstanding the excitement of how far he has come.
A long journey, full of service to humanity, especially seeing some of the projects, the contracts I participated in, and that is making a lot of difference in people's lives. You know, when you see people happy, you also become very, very happy. And yes, full of ups and downs. You know, there are very, very rough times. And of course, there were also very, very good times.
Lots of congratulations and well wishes from family members, colleagues, and acquaintances poured out. They also expressed their love for him and offered prayers for a better retirement life.
This is the beginning of a new era for him in Jesus' name. He will move from glory to glory. God will do a new thing in his life and everybody will hear and rejoice with us in Jesus' name.
This new chapter, I wish him success in it, and this is a well-deserved celebration.
And my prayer for him is that he will never retire unto death. He will have good, long life, many good things that is yet to come. He will witness it.
Getting to this height is not easy. It is the grace of God that takes people to this level. And we thank God that He's there. He's stepping out from here and stepping up to greater heights.
His service years saw him as a zonal leader. Take two. His service years saw him as a zonal leader, chief maintenance engineer, zonal coordinator, deputy director, and director. Sharon Ajay reporting for Global TV News.
We appreciate your reporting, Sharon. Now let's turn to other stories for you. Justice Emeka Nwite of a federal high court in Abuja has granted 10 End Bad Governance protesters who were arrested and detained for treason, among others, to a bail in the sum of 10 million naira each and one surety in like sum. While delivering the ruling, the trial judge held that Nigeria's criminal justice system has its stipulations for the prosecutor and the defendant. Justice Nwite agreed with the argument of the first, second, and fourth defendants' counsel, Abubakar Marshall, that anybody charged with a criminal offense must be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Now let's turn to Imo State, where the government says it has no plan to rig the forthcoming local government election as alleged by the opposition, the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The government further declared that going by the popularity of Governor Hope Uzodinma based on his quantum people-oriented projects scattered across the state, the All Progressives Congress APC will post overwhelming success in the election. The State Commissioner for Information, Public Orientation and Strategy, Declan Emelumba, said it is very insulting for the PDP to accuse the governor of smuggling an already written results to the Imo State Independent Electoral Commission, ICEC. The Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR, has announced plans to establish a public relations and leadership university in Nasarawa State. Speaking in Abuja during the inauguration of the 74-man project implementation committee of the university, chairman of NIPR, Dr. A.K. Neliaku, said it would be situated in Nasarawa because the government offered a suitable location. Neliaku said the proposed university is to train leaders to not only communicate effectively, but also to speak on their visions and achievements. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has disclosed that at least 20 aspirants in the forthcoming Kano State local government election have tested positive for multiple drugs. The development, part of a crackdown on drug use among candidates, has raised concerns about the integrity of the upcoming elections. The agency's commander in Kano, Abubakar Ahmad, confirmed to newsmen that the aspirants, all from the ruling New Nigeria People's Party, the NNPP, tested positive for substances including opioids, THC, the active ingredient in cannabis, and nicotine. Quite some disturbing piece of news there, no doubt. Elsewhere, the Rivers State's Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, has admonished traditional rulers to not use their privileged positions to victimize their opponents and those who did not support them during the process of ascension to their ancestral throne. The governor says the monarchs should rather see themselves as fathers and kings to all without prejudice. Governor Fubara urged the royal fathers to work with all sections of their subjects in their domains with fatherly hearts in order to promote peaceful coexistence, harmony, and enduring development. You're watching the Global AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. When the news returns, federal government's dollar bond attracts $900 million subscription. We'll let you know those details and more stories after this short break. Please stay with us. This is Global Television, bringing you a live broadcast of the AM News with Uyi Agmofwe. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's turn to business for you. Nigeria's first ever foreign currency domestic bond has secured $900 million in subscriptions. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, revealed this while discussing the results of the historic bond issuance. He noted that the oversubscription reflects investor confidence in Nigeria's economic stability and potential for growth. Edu explained that the successful issuance of the domestic dollar bond marks a significant step in the government's efforts to deepen economic growth and promote financial inclusion. Nigeria's crude oil production has increased from 1.307 million barrels per day in July to 1.352 million barrels per day in August, and that's according to the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, in the September monthly oil market report. OPEC reported that the average daily crude production rose marginally by 45,000 barrels per day based on information obtained through direct communication with the Nigerian government. The Nigerian Ports Authority, NPA, has intervened and stopped disruption of cargo evacuation at the nation's seaports and the planned strike to be embarked upon by maritime truck owners over alleged extortion and vandalization of trucks by miscreants on Port Access Road. The managing director of the authority, Abubakar Dantoho, said the nation's economy cannot be shut down at this critical moment. Dansoho, who was represented by the Executive Director, Marine and Operations, Engineer Olalekan Badmus, said the authority will work with the Lagos State Government and the Police High Command to urgently address truckers' concerns and prevent any down tools. The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Bank of Industry, and some financial institutions will be discussing the impact of the current recapitalization on the real sector at the 2024 Finance Correspondents Association of Nigeria Conference. A statement by the organization noted that the event would address Nigeria's ambitious goal of achieving $1 trillion economy. And beyond our shores now, ex-United States President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris faced each other on the debate stage Tuesday night for the first time. The race is tight between the two candidates. Among registered voters, Harris leads Trump by 1 point, which is 49% to 48%, according to the latest PBS NPR Marist poll. That result falls within the margin of error. The ABC debate marks the first face-to-face meeting between Harris, who is 59, and Trump, who has turned 78. 5 Palestinians have been killed in an Israeli airstrike in the north of the occupied West Bank. That's according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Palestinian Red Crescent said a drone targeted a group of 5 young men near a mosque in the city of Tubas at dawn on Wednesday. An ambulance crew transferred the bodies to the local government hospital. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, said an aircraft struck an armed terrorist cell during counter-terrorism activity by security forces in Tubas and the nearby town of Tamun. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy have arrived in Kiev on a joint visit as Ukraine continues to press for the right to use US and British long-range missiles against Russia. The two men traveled together to the Ukrainian capital after talks in London. They are due to meet President Volodymyr Zelensky, who has repeatedly called on Washington to loosen the limits on US-supplied weapons. Blinken said one of their goals is to hear directly from the Ukrainian leadership about their objectives and what they can do to support those needs. And now to sports. Technical Director of the Nigeria Football Federation, Austin Eguavoen, has denied stepping down as the interim coach of the Super Eagles after the 2025 AFCON qualifiers against the Benin Republic and Rwanda. Eguavoen was appointed by the NFF to take charge of the two games following the inability of the Federation to secure the services of German coach Bruno Labbadia over what they call stringent German tax laws. Eguavoen was said to have stepped down as interim coach, but the gaffer has denied the reports ahead of the next month's AFCON qualifiers double-header against Libya. Godfrey Omonohio has emerged champion of the 2024 Lady Captains inaugural tournament at the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Golf Club in Abuja. The two-day tournament in honor of Isabella Ajuzie, the newly inaugurated lady captain of the club, ended on Sunday with no fewer than 200 golfers competing for honors in the various categories. Omonohio, playing off handicap 9 and returning a gross score of 73 and 64 nets over 18 holes, notched the event's highest prize. Let's go international now. Real Madrid star Rodrigo says Brazil needs Neymar if they are to chase a record 6th World Cup in 2026. The 23-year-old, who scored a first half goal to help Brazil beat Ecuador 1-0 on Friday and stop their 3-match losing streak in CONMEBOL qualifying for the 2026 World Cup, said Neymar is key to Brazil's success. And that's it on the Global AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on DSTV channel 365, Star Times, channel 276, and free to air on Nigecomsat. Kindly follow Global Television across all of our social media platforms using our Global TVNG and other handles as you now see your screen. I'm Uyi Agmofwegwe. Thank you so very much for watching. The rest of Global Morning with yours sincerely and Edicon Michael continues shortly. Do stay with us. Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Many thanks for sister with us here on Global Morning. Right now we'll be looking at the issues, a very disturbing issue at that, the flooding ravaging the country. We'll look at the Maduguri just yesterday, a record of over 200 persons have been displaced in the course of these billions, millions of naira. Property have also been destroyed at the cause of these. We've seen even the prison, the walls of prison have been broken away, and inmates fleeing into the cities and the towns, and of course it's becoming a challenge for the country, and that's why we're trying to see what are the measures that must be put in place to address all of these issues, and of course to categorically understand that we must see what we can do to solve the situation. We understand that it's a natural circumstances, but we also have a role to play. Government has a role to play, individuals have a role to play, and that's the reason we'll be looking at this very shortly. We'll be joined by a professor from the University of Port Harcourt, Department of Geography, Information Science, and Modeling Department of Geography, environmental experts joining us. Professor Olaru Ojew Lawal, he's an expert in this field. Will be giving us a background of what we must begin to do in terms of serving the situation for other future occurrences. Good morning, Prof, and thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, quickly. We understand the situation, and it's becoming very much disturbing. Because one way or the other, the Ministry of Environment said we saw this coming, and we had written to some state on what they have to do in terms of managing, this situation like this. But it looks that it didn't match with an action. It wasn't enough. It looks that they were not ready. State government were not also ready on their part in salvaging the situation. Are you disturbed about the management of that, or probably a lot would have been done to probably stop the situation?
There are two dimensions to that question. The first is, this is just a repeat of what happened in 2022. The information was provided early to warn the states about what needs to be done and what they can expect. But the second dimension to that question is the information provided, is it good enough in such a way that action can be targeted? Because if you just tell me so local governments are at risk of being flooded, are you telling me the entire local government is at risk? Are you telling me specifically this so area, this area, this area? So that lack of specificity also reduces the capacity of many of the local actors to take action. But I will not blame the federal government for everything, because we have a structure in terms of the National Disaster Management Framework, which allocates responsibility to different tiers of government. So if we don't follow that and we always just look forward to the federal government doing something, I think we're just going to be repeating the same thing over and over. I'm sincerely frustrated by this kind of repeats. It's like we are not learning anything from what has happened in the past.
All right, Prof. I just want to first thank you for taking out time to join us. I mean, regardless of your busy schedule this morning. But let's look at it from this angle. This is 30 years since this sort of flood, which some people who have followed the trajectory say wasn't this disastrous, all right, 3 decades ago. Now, 3 decades down the line, does it look like we have learned any lesson, whether as a state or even at the federal level, given the scale of devastation that we have seen happening in Maiduguri, which has not even abated as we speak on the show this morning?
I will say we have learned something, but we have not taken action. Let me share with you the flood outlook. We are better at making the forecast. NIMET is doing fantastically well. The other agency, the hydrological agency, they are doing very well in trying to provide the forecast. They are better at doing that now compared to 30 years ago. The problem that I see is taking action based on what we know. And this has always been the problem across every sphere of our society. Implementation, when it comes to taking action based on the information we have, based on the data we have. And I will still say that we still even don't have enough data. I alluded to that earlier, that the specificity of the information that is being provided to local actors is not good enough to guide them specifically to what they need to do, where they need to do those things. And as long as we believe so much, we're so entrenched in this mentality of responding instead of preparing, we're going to be here every year. And you have rightly said it, we're going to have more of this kind of floods going into the future as a result of climate change. The Niger Delta, we're going to bear the brunt of it. People on the coastline, we're going to see storm surge. We're already experiencing that with many communities along the coastline being eroded by rising sea level. So taking action is always the challenge.
We're trying to see probably what should be the response. We've seen NEMA up and doing in terms of managing the situation right now, and they have been evacuated to IDP camps. We are more bothered and disturbed because we do not even have the capacity enough to manage the population of people that have been displaced and right now at the camp. Now we are making a consideration of the fact that should more IDP camps be built in some states that are prone to such situations, so as to be able to effectively have a well-managed structure. That's one. Secondly, what should the state government do in terms of combating this situation, because it's a natural disaster, and it looks that no one really planned for that and probably see that coming as severe as the situation in Borno.
Let me start from the second part of your question. We may not be 100% accurate in terms of our forecast, but we can anticipate. The technology is there enough that I can do my modeling and give you up to 3 days kind of forecast and prepare you 3 days to the time that so people, set of people living here, you need to evacuate. And we know that the climate is changing. More things like this are likely to happen. So it's not something that is a left field that we did not expect. It is that we do not plan to deal with the situation. Now, I don't know in terms of whether, I'm not very sure whether Borno State have a state emergency management agency. Let me provide it just a brief view. The disaster management framework in the country, it's done in such a way that the local agency, local emergency management agency, the community, when they cannot handle the situation, they escalate it to the state. When the state cannot manage the situation, it's beyond their capacity, they escalate to NEMA. But what we're seeing now is everything is being done by NEMA. NEMA does not have that capacity to do everything everywhere in the country. That is not the regulation. That is not the framework. That is not sustainable. Local actors need to take their responsibility seriously. Borno State now, with the state of insecurity, things have improved, but it could get better. Now, the situation is being worsened by this flood. So the lack of planning, the lack of anticipation with the technology that is available, it saddens me that we put people in jeopardy when we have the wherewithal. I can tell you categorically that in terms of intellectual capacity, it's all over this country to make this thing work. I've done a number of work across the Niger Delta. I've made proposals, I've presented proposals about what we can do to manage this situation across different spheres. But when we don't categorically take action, we are going to continue seeing this. Borno State will have to think, do we have the proper place to put people that they are not going to be in jeopardy again? So relocating them will have to be done in such a way that when things get better, when the flood receded, are we going to put them in that same situation that down the line we're going to bring them back into to IDP camp, or we're going to find a permanent solution where we put them in such a place that they have resilience, they are better located not to witness this again? That's $1 million question, but we can always suggest now the action is going to be critical.
The perspective of this conversation, right? A lot of experts like yourself would readily argue that what we're seeing now is just one of the, well, if you like, numerous fallouts of climate change, of which Nigeria is not exempted. However, come this November, the world will spend 12 days in Baku, Azerbaijan to attend COP29. Again, one of the many platforms in this series where the globe gets to talk about issues around climate and the environment. Does it not look like Nigeria is not joining that conversation? Does it not look like, from all the indications in front of us right now, that we are not committed to the narrative aimed at driving efforts to reverse the impact of climate change?
We are committed. We showed commitment. We submitted impressive plan and targets. But globally, I will say this with all honesty, I don't think globally the commitment is there from any of the major greenhouse gas emitters. If you look at the contribution of Nigeria to greenhouse emission, is minuscule. But when you look at the major polluters, the United States, the European countries, and the rest, they have made a lot of pledges, but they have not lived up to that expectation. So when you don't have that global leadership, it's easy for countries like Nigeria to say, look at the resources we have. You have developed your economy to the point that you have enough resources to manage climate change. We have to also make sure we get our economy developed. We have to get our people living well before we can start thinking seriously about climate change. But my argument is always going to be, either we like it or not, climate, weather, environment has no boundaries. So any political boundary you think you have drawn, when the problem comes, it respects no boundary. So it has to be that global effort. We see a lot of publicity about we need to do something, we need to do something. But action on the ground globally is still lacking. It's not only in Nigeria. The major polluters are not doing enough to really change the narrative of the impact of climate change. But we in tropical Africa and many of the other island countries, we are going to bear the brunt of it because we do not have the capacity in terms of the capital to manage the impact of climate change. And this is where we need the major polluters to live up to their pledges so that we can build a better world. The way I'm seeing it, I don't want to be a pessimist, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, sincerely.
All right, Prof. I'll quickly allow you to give us an understanding about the dams. I know what really triggered this flooding is the fact that we had a collapse in one of the dams right there in Borno State. That we are particular about and concerned about other dams in the country. Does it look that he has a way of signaling, that, I mean, this may be the resulting effect of its collapse, so as to be able to put some sectors on alert, maybe the people residing in those areas and all of what government also can do in response to managing that?
Dams are man-made structures. They have maintenance procedures. They have all the different standard operating procedure to keep them working. We have dams all over the world that have been working for 50, 60, 70 years, and they have not given in this kind of situation. It still goes back to not doing what's supposed to be done. Are you telling me that a dam that has been built for such a number of years, there is no need for it to undergo regular check? Even ordinary road, if you have a bridge, you need to check the bridge regularly. There are some tests you need to conduct to check the integrity of the bridge. How much more a dam? So it's just failure of people at different sphere who has the responsibility to do what they. It cannot just be that this is just something that is so bad that we could not anticipate it. Maybe because I'm a modeler, we model things and we use that to anticipate what could happen. So even if this is 1 in a 100-year event, we can still plan for a 1 in a 100-year event. So it's just, for me, it's sad because people are suffering for what we could have prevented. It's preventable.
There's one very core element that we need to also talk about, Prof, quickly with regards to all of these issues around the Maiduguri challenge that we're having right now. Yes, we understand that it's not just Borno State alone, even within the Northeast, but then it is what it is. Borno State right now is in the eye of the storm, no doubt about that. But let's talk about practical, measurable efforts to maybe clean up the mess by the time it's all said and done. And I'll take you back, sir, to Ogoniland. While former President Muhammadu Buhari was still in office, we started hearing about some efforts, at some point, some 20 billion naira for the cleanup of Ogoniland. Of course, we all know how much of devastation had also happened to Ogoni on account of exploration and what have you. By the time the dust, so to speak, eventually settles in Maiduguri and its environs, how much more work, being an expert, do you see us having to do in order to bring about at least something close to normalcy?
This is $1 million question, because until you actually survey the landscape and see the extent of the damage, it's difficult for me to kind of make an estimate now. I wouldn't say, at least on the positive side, we We do not have a replica of what we have in the Niger Delta and the Ogoni axis, where we have pollutants everywhere. We are not likely to have that kind of situation in Maiduguri in Borno State. So cleaning up for that kind of situation is totally different. So you are trying to wait for the flood to recede and look and clean up after the devastation. So you're trying to clean up the muds, you're trying to see if you can rebuild. But the key focus will now be, are we going to build back better so that when such things happen, the impact is minimized? Okay? Because if we cannot prevent it totally, the next thing we want to do is we want to minimize the impact. So when the dust settles, what sort of redevelopment, recovery do we want to put in place? Is it going to be the one that is resilient, that is going to be better than what we have, or we're just going to go back to status quo and hope and pray that it never happens again? This is not if we are going to hope and pray, then that's not a sustainable approach to doing things better. The better way would be to make sure that even if it happened again, we are better prepared. The people are better positioned in terms of where development is happening. The structure that gave in is better built and maintained so that if that is going to happen, is going to be the chances will be very, very minimal.
A whole lot of concern. We're trying to see what probably we may begin to do so as to address some of the future occurrences. A concern on climate action, climate change. We've seen a whole lot of engagement with the country and all the other countries. We've seen a participation at COP28 and now the preparation against COP29. And the issues of investment in the climate change has also been a concern. From your assessment, Prof, do you feel that we have probably positioned in terms of responses to the climate change, and how would you measure participation, our engagement, and the investment we have in this project?
Investments. The country has just made a move in terms of going more towards gas. The intention is laudable, and the movement in that direction is laudable so that we can reduce our emissions. But if you look in terms of the big picture, it's still a drop in the ocean when you think in terms of you look at our energy production, you look at our transportation infrastructure, you look at the industrial sector, you look at so many different sectors that are contributing to emission of greenhouse gases and their consequent impact on climate change. We're still far off, and I understand why that may be difficult for us compared to other more high income and middle income countries. To develop your infrastructure to be able to be less dependent on fossil fuel, it takes a lot of investment, serious and significant level of investment. And if you do not have the resources, I'm not saying we do not have the resources, we do have the resources, but maybe the priority is different because climate change may not be the most important thing on the agenda of the government right now. The most important thing is definitely how do we reduce poverty? How do we raise the standard of living of people? And that may be contrary to reducing climate greenhouse gas emissions. But I don't think it should be contrary. It's something that we can work on concurrently. But that is for the policymaker to look at. We need to do a little bit more in order to change the structure of our economy. For example, if you look at our food production, most of the food we eat still have to travel thousands of kilometers to get to where it's being consumed. majorly in the urban areas. And if you look at the route and if you look at the transportation network, we waste a lot of resources, which leads to a lot of emissions. So these are little areas that we might need to look at. If you want to reduce your emission, you need to do something about your transportation. You need to think about, I can assure you that everybody around here, each one of us has one generator or the other in our household. So that's a source of emission, and every little bit adds up. So we have started, but we have a long way to go.
There's another very concerning element, all right, in the mix with regards to this discussion we're having on the program this morning, which is interagency collaboration. You have made, well, some sort of allusion to NEMA, and then we also have NIMET. All right, we have the Federal Ministry of Environment. Of course, the states have their own ministries of environment as well. Most times when we have a disaster of this scale, I mean, a devastation of this magnitude, it will appear that the polarization, as it were, between these agencies just becomes even more visible. How do we ensure cohesion in such a way that we are able to find this kind of concerted effort before, during, and after a devastation such as the one we are discussing this morning?
One thing I love about Nigeria is we have beautiful documents. We have fantastic policy documents. We have regulatory documents. We have legal documents that are beautifully crafted. But the problem is implementing those. I'll go back again to the National Disaster Management Framework. In this framework, it is excellently crafted, the responsibility of each agency and the different stakeholder. If we have to do this, this is the responsibility of this agency. This is the agency that will coordinate. This is the agency that will do this. This is what needs to be done here for search and rescue. This is the structure for evacuation. This is the structure. This is who is leading. It is carefully spelled out. This is one of the fantastic documents, the most fantastic document I've seen in terms of disaster management for the country. It's well made. And you have said it. Why is it that with this guideline there, why do we still get this friction whenever these agencies need to work together? This is what I can, the only thing I can think of around this has to do with the issue of the culture of the different agencies, the culture of working together. That culture needs to change if we want to really take our people forward. We want to have, I often tell anybody that if people are living well, you as a politician, you have a lot less to worry about. Your position can be secure. You don't need to try and manipulate anything to get into. People are living well. They don't bother you too much because they are doing okay. But when people are not doing okay, then you have to manipulate. You have to do all you can do to get into power. So it's that culture, is that tradition of working together. I don't want to mention agency. I've seen agency going to defend their budget in the Senate and they are fighting each other. Even though they are there to serve the people. Why are you fighting? If this agency can do it, if in the law it says this agency, why the fight? Why the rancor? So it's the guiding principles, the laws and the guidelines are there to say who is responsible for what. But I don't know where we get it wrong, that even though there is a rule, people still don't want to follow the rule, to work together accordingly. I would like some sociologists and political scientists to come and talk about that, but it's beyond me. I don't understand why we do this. I don't.
All right, Prof, just a follow-up to the last question. In terms of awareness, we are concerned because it looks like we're not doing enough in terms of creating more awareness. I understand the campaigns at the international level, and we're trying to see how some of these issues can be localized, where people can understand the role they have to play in terms of the situation. Yes, government can always bear the whole burden, but can we really have a situation where a lot of campaigns have been localized so that people can understand what they have to do in terms of responses, in terms of also serving the environment that we are talking about?
That's a fantastic question, because if you don't get people to act, then we are going to have to keep on rescuing and getting relief into places that have been affected. I know there was an initiative to create an app, a mobile app that people can check. I don't know whether it's NIMET or the Hydrological Agency that started that. I'm not very sure right now, but I know there was an initiative, but I don't know where it has gotten to right now. So the issue has to be that the localization of the information needs to be properly done so that people actually know, am I living where I could be affected? If my area is going to be affected, what do I need to do? So that kind of information needs to be provided in such a way that people can take action. So right now, I have not seen that, and I think there's a need to actually put more effort into doing that.
All right, a very big thank you to you, Prof, for joining us this morning. We really appreciate the concern. Professor Lawal joins us from the University of Port Harcourt, Department of Geography. Thanks so much, Prof, for finding time to join us this morning on the program.
It's my pleasure.
All right. We'll go on a break, and once we return from the break, we'll be looking at other issues concerning the fact that it looks like in a dual state, they are concerned by the political parties and even the People's Democratic Party signaling that they might not be part of the peace accord, where due to the fact that there's some allegations in ground about the involvement of some of the umpires in the election ahead of the September 21st. But to what end would all of these concerns and issues be addressed? So we'll look at that very shortly after this break. Please stay with us.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
It is 9 days to September 21st, Edo election, and a whole lot of preparation on the part of Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the security agencies, as they have a whole big role to play in that election. A concern, more particular about the matters that we still coming ahead of us, and of course the report we are having, Godwin Obaseki and the People's Democratic Party are saying we are not sure we will be participating in the peace accord. The peace accord is a ritual where every political party comes together to sign in terms of respecting the fact that, election has to be peaceful, and all of those considerations that is always brought up at that meeting. So it looks at there are also one-sided issues where the security agencies, the IG was there yesterday promising that over 35,000 men have been mobilized ahead of the election, but it looks at everyone, this other party are having a suspect in the order, and we cannot really resolve all of these considerations and issues if we don't properly understand that the election has to be free and fair indeed. We'll be joined by a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party who will be joining us from Benin City in Edo State to give us an understanding about the position of the party in respect to the peace accord and the election coming forward. We are concerned. You are from Edo. We are considering the fact that you know better than these issues that is coming ahead of time. Godfatherism is a factor. Zoning is a factor. Give us an understanding.
Do I really know better? Incidentally, we have our political correspondent, Anthony Momodu, on the ground right there in Benin. He's been there for a couple of weeks now. Hopefully, in the course of the week, Anthony will join us live for one of our programs, just to give us a pulse of what it is like in Benin City. But just to set the record straight, Idika, first off, PDP is the ruling party in Edo State. So it's a PDP state, as we say, right? So you have Governor Obaseki, whose 8-year term will cycle out on the 12th of November. So whoever wins this election, it means by 12th of November midday, there will be a new sheriff in town, as they say. So Osalibe Avenue, which is the official government house in Benin City, will have a new governor. However, we are more concerned at this point about the events leading up to the election, and how that in itself will determine who becomes the governor of the state going forward. The PDP says, of course, through the governor Obaseki, that we're not signing this peace accord because we understand that things are not tilted in our favor. Instead, they are tilted against us. Again, that's an allegation. However, we need to understand that the peace accord is not constitutional, so it's not even binding in any case, all right? But then, as gentlemanly agreement as it seems to be, it is being, to use your word, a ritual that has been practiced now for a while, which also means that it has become something that both at the federal and state levels we have agreed that we'll be signing at least a few weeks just to the election. However, in this case, for the ruling party itself to be crying wolf, where we are not sure whether there is any or none, also raises concern. But the government also needs to understand that if you say your party or the candidate himself, in this case, Mr. Aso Ighodalo, will not sign the peace accord, are you saying that you want to resort to violence? Are you saying that you want to perpetrate some, if you like, some electoral malpractice? Because you can have your arguments and still sign, or conversely, you can sign and still have your arguments. But again, like we said, it's not binding on anybody. At this point in time, Adika, beyond the issue of peace accord, the raving conversation is around the campaign. For example, the PDP itself, the ruling party in the state, has said big campaign, if you like, the mother of all campaigns for us, will be on the 14th of this month, which, if I understand the calendar very well, is going to be this Saturday. Of course, the APC too is not, has been very relentless. We've seen Oshomole bring all the energy to the campaign train. We've seen their candidates, Senator Monday Okpewolo, also do the same. His running mates, Dennis Idahosa, Denko, as it's popularly called, has also been throwing his 2 cents in. And then we've seen all these parties. Of course, the Labour Party as well.
Are you undermining Akpata?
Of course, that's what I wanted to say. The Labour Party. You see, people had even said before now that the PDP and the APC have to be extremely careful.
Absolutely.
That the Labour Party and its candidates, talking about Olubode Akpata, can create an upset that will shock everybody, including the electorates. Absolutely. So you have to be careful. We've seen the man also do his thing the last couple of months going to the election. Of course, if you have followed the developments in those states recently, you would have seen the battle that Olumide Osaigbovo Akpata also had to fight within the Labour Party to claims that tickets. In fact, as we speak on the program this morning, Ediko, we understand that there are a couple of litigations in courts arising from the conduct of the primaries within the Labour Party. So for a man who has been able to win that kind of fierce battle, then it means that. Yes, but we'll have to take a quick break now, everyone. Quickly, the rest of the program continues shortly. Do stay with us.
Many thanks everyone for still with us on the morning show. A consideration right now into Edo State, just for a few days to go, and the tension is still very high. We're looking at the event unfolding right there in Edo. People's Democratic Party are probably having a tough time, irrespective of the fact that they are the ruling party in the state, because they are having APC to confront with, they're having the Labour Party to confront with. I mean, what we are only really suing for right now is the fact that there should be a level playing ground for every political parties to engage in the election. Edo really is one of the off-cycle elections we have in the country, which the month of November will be that of Ondo State. So in a consideration of all the political parties that are on board and also reconsidering the concern and issues that must be properly looked into. What are the tensions like? What are the factors that must determine that election? What are the considerations on ground? What are the people really saying? What confidence do they really have in INEC to conduct that election? So that is the old assessment we are really having in it. 35,000 policemen have been put on alert and mobilized by the IG for a Edo election. He reiterated that again yesterday. And there's a consideration that the security agencies must be independent. They must do their job professionally and discharging their duty not to intimidate voters, but secure the polling unit and the collation centers and every forms of elections duties that will be carried out. Only a consideration of the events. The tension right now is a consideration. Security agencies have also been brought to a focus generally, because people are saying they are the ones to protect. They are the ones to give confidence to electorate. I mean, the voters, they are the ones who really have a way of turning down, the tension by political parties so that people can have, confidence to go out there to cast their vote. Are you bothered about, insecurity that is really one of the most focused in terms of the campaign season they are having right now?
Yes, if you have followed elections in the South generally, I mean, Edo State now being in focus, you will realize that there's always a bit of volatility. Then, of course, you have a few hotspots here and there, which ultimately would culminate, in most cases, in pockets of election-related violence and what have you. But you see, we're also saying that politicians, time and again, don't seem to have learned their lessons, even at the highest leadership level of these political parties. All right, so in this case, because I want us to stay with the issues here, in this case, the incumbent governor, Mr. Governor Obaseki, his candidate, Saswe Godalo, and the chairman of that party, the PDP, must lead by example. Ditto the chairman of the APC in Edo State, the candidate of the APC in Edo State. Of course, the same extends to the Labour Party state chairman and their candidate, Olumide Akpata. I mean, we saw what happened with the PDP and the Labour Party with regards to Olumide Akpata when he went to University of Benin to address some members of staff there the other time. But again, even though it appears events have overtaken that singular incident right now, we can't run away from the fact that all the key stakeholders have a very crucial role to play, because they must lead by example. They must take their followers by hand. They must understand that the central theme should be about the issues. How good are the roads in Edo State today? Obaseki's 8-year term will cycle out on the 12th of November, like I said a while ago. But the question will be, what has happened with major roads in the states? Are we still having conversations around this one is not state road, this one is federal road? We must deal with that. People have said, well, the man has done excellently well regarding infrastructure, especially as it has to do with some of those buildings that had been, well, let's say, abandoned by successive governments and all of that. They also talked about, as a matter of fact, the reforms that he has brought to the civil service. They've talked about things like Edo Best, which they say has radically brought a revolution to education, particularly at the primary level in the states. And then they've also pointed to things like Edo Jobs, which they say is been helping young people to find opportunities, whether in agric, in tech, some sort of small, medium-scale enterprises kind of system in the states. But in all of this, the question is, how would that play out in the discourse regarding who becomes the next governor of the states? On the side of the APC, that has not been in power for a while now, because we all know that Governor Godwin Obaseki defected in 2020 in the heat of his resolve to seek a second term in office. But the question is, what fighting chance does the APC have? What is the edge of the APC? Of course, the APC has been saying that, look, Obaseki has not done anything in these states. As a matter of fact, what we have come to find is that the man just signs a lot of MOUs, but we've not seen anything on the ground in terms of those MOUs and what they're supposed to accomplish for the state and its people. For example, let's say the governor had talked about an airport in Edo North, which is where Mr. Oshomole, the current senator representing Edo North Senatorial District, comes from. That we've not seen, yes, exactly. We're not seeing that airport. You say you're going to have stadia across all 18 local government areas. We've not seen all of that. You say you're going to bring Gele Seaport, which is supposed to be a game changer in terms of commerce in the state. We've not seen any of that. But the governor also says that, yes, you may not have seen that because these things are not as easy as they seem, but you have also seen what we have done in terms of, say, for example, reforms. We've seen what we have done in terms of how that we are able to change the narrative regarding how education is approached in the states. Civil service is now more vibrant and productive than it was before I came into office, and so on and so forth. But in all of this, the other gentleman, because these are the three major political parties, the Labour Party guy talking about Bata, he's also saying that I have led one of the most successful, one of the most critical associations in this country, which is the Nigerian Bar Association, and my results speak for themselves and all of that. So I think this is what all these gentlemen will be bringing to the to the Edo people, and of course to the polls to say vote for me. But in terms of security, a lot of work needs to be done, and I think beyond deploying 35,000 policemen or more, the key stakeholders must watch their narratives going into the election proper.
The people of Edo really have, they know who they want, and I am looking at the aspect of the fact that they probably have the intention to elect who they really want. But we've just been told that Andrew from People's Democratic Party, a chieftain and a campaign council member of the PDP, is live here joining us from Benin City. Good morning, Andrew, and thanks so much for joining us on our morning show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning once again.
All right. I don't know if you have read through the papers this morning. We have a very disturbing headline that it looks that People's Democratic Party are threatening that they won't participate in the peace accord. Give us an understanding about the meaning of that statement and what the impact it probably may have on the election that is just 9 days to go.
Yeah, all the way from Benin City here. The truth remains, we want to sign peace accord. You're telling us to come and sign peace accord when you're using the instrumentality of government, to distort the peace and harmony of the people of Edo State. We are not fools in this country, of course. We know what we're doing. We know what we want as the people. You understand? You can't be using the federal might to intimidate Edo people. You are oppressing us. You are victimizing us, all because you have the federal power, because the president have assured you that he's going to hand over Edo State to you. For God's sake, we are not in Banana Republic. This democratic dispensation. You can't just say because the president have told you he's going to hand over Edo State to you, you're not ready to follow through the free and fair process of electing a government. This is the democratic system we are practicing, and we're going to prove to them that, look, even if they have federal might will not work in Edo State too. Edo State is not like any other state too. We keep on telling them, they think we are joking. Except, I'm on national television, except they want to carry plenty dead body away that day. Because many of us are ready to die and follow them. Sure, they release their lions and tiger, no problem. We'll follow them now. Let them release their lions and tiger to come and kill all of us in Edo State. So by the time they kill 100 people, kill 50 people, they will be tired. Because as it stands right now, we're ready to die. All of us in Edo State. We make up our mind. The young people.
We do not want that. We do not want a bloodshed election, and that's the reason why I'm having this consideration. In a tweet of an event, the IG was there yesterday. He met with the stakeholders. Probably, are you not really having the confidence on the fact that the IG is retreating? With that, we will probably be mobilizing our men, over 35,000. And also considering on the fact that they are on ground to secure, the people of Edo ahead of the election.
The police is being controlled by the federal government, which is being led by APC. Remember, the presidency already told them that he's going to deliver Edo State to them. So they are going to influence the police because the police is not being controlled by the state government; it's controlled by the federal government. So they feel that. So
you feel that the deployment of 35,000 policemen is against your party?
Pardon?
Do you feel that the mobilization of 35,000 policemen is against your party?
It's not even against, we are not saying you should not mobilize police, but we are saying that with the handwriting on the wall, it's obvious that the security architecture of Nigeria have been compromised by the ruling of Progressive Congress. Of course, you heard Wike said on national television the last time that he's going to use some certain states to start, which we know you already have as Edo State, as he's already angry with Edo people, Edo State. So, but we're not going to put our hand, that's what we're saying. We're not going to put our hand as Edo people and watch him use Edo State as a scapegoat, or you watch him use Edo State as a reference point for other states. It should not happen in Edo State too.
Andrew, first, we'd like to thank you for jumping on this conversation at short notice, all right? But let's set the record straight. In 2016, for example, that was when the governor, the leader of your party in the States, Obaseki, came into office. Of course, then, as we all know, he was in the APC, and Oshomole was the outgoing governor. Former President Muhammadu Buhari was the president. Of course, this was an APC thing, federal and state. I'm not so sure if the PDP at that time, where Pastor Osagi Ezeyamu was running on the platform of the PDP against your then candidates, then candidate, I'm not sure you were in the APC, of course. At that time, if you had said that there was federal might being used, it would have been correct. So we need to be sure that our conversations, no matter how emotionally charged up we are based on facts. We cannot, even you, Andrew, cannot authoritatively confirm that President Tinubu gave an order for Edo State to be delivered to the APC. But that said, I want us to stay with the issues for the next few minutes, all right? We all understand that Edo State is charged up right now. But let's look at how that we all have a responsibility, because you are a member of the PDP and you've been there for a while. Let's talk about the responsibility of all stakeholders, regardless of party affiliation and partisanship, to be sure that there is peace. Because when it's all said and done, there has to be a governor at Osadebe Avenue come 12th of November. And that governor, that same governor, will need people to stay alive, not to kill 50 or 100, to use your words, for him to have people to govern.
Because they want to kill all of us. That's what they plan to do. But we told them that, look, they should allow us to choose and determine who governs us as a people. Okay, now take an example of what is happening right now. What is the basis of you arresting opposition member? What is the basis of you victimizing us, oppressing us, intimidating us? There are a series of videos trending everywhere where they say they want to kill all of us. You've seen the videos. What is the basis of those things? All because you have federal government in your post? They're not being fair to us. What we are saying is this: we want peace in Edo State. This is the only state we can call our. Just like what you said. If everybody dies in this state, who is the governor coming to govern? All we're saying is that we want a state that can be harmonized for all. We want a state that will be habitable for business to flourish. That is what we're saying. We're only saying that, look, there is a life after election. We're saying there's life after politics. If you kill all of us, if we begin to disenfranchise people, we frustrate people, we victimize people, oppress people, intimidate people, all in the name of election, by the time you win, who are you going to govern? That is not what we want. That's what we're saying as a people. Let's come together. Let's unite together and put political, religious, and emotional interests aside. Choose the best candidate. Let everybody go to feed. Vote their choice, and whoever wins, the INEC should declare the person winner. INEC should not be biased. The police should not be biased. Institutions of government should be seen as an agency for transparency, for integrity, for accountability. That is the only way we can have a harmonious living together as a people.
All right. I don't know if you are aware that even the APC campaign group will tell you that even their campaign trail have been attacked severally, because we have a reporter on ground in Benin City who have also given us that report where some gunshot very close to where APC are doing their campaign. So it also looks at APC are accusing your party that because you are in the government house today, you are using all the state structure and apparatus to probably intimidate the APC in the state. What can be the response you have for us?
We don't control security attention in Nigeria. We only have local vigilantes which are empowered to protect the citizen based on the range of kidnapping that will be happening in the state. Now take a look at this. Take a look at this example. Since our local vigilante came into existence, don't you see the drastic reduction of crime rate in Edo State? Are you not happy now that you can boldly say, Edo State that I know, kidnapping have reduced drastically? At least you're happy to say, thank God, people can go to farm, businesses can flourish effectively well, rate of courtesy have reduced drastically. These are things that everybody's happy about in Nigeria today. This is the effort and result of the local vigilante that the Obaseki Revolution put in place. Now, these same people, APC, they are doing everything possible to ensure that those vigilantes are not effective. They want to make sure that insecurity come back to the state. Now look at the video that the governorship committee of APC did last time on their campaign ground. He said, I will make sure I will provide you with insecurity. He said the abundance of the heart, speak it. What the abundance of the heart, whatever you have in your heart, that's what comes up from your mouth. So he has insecurity embodied in his mind, in his heart. That was why he was consciously speaking out that I'm going to provide him with insecurity. Because he's already planning to provide him with insecurity. So if he's not playing very insecurity, he will not say that.
Probably it was, it wasn't a statement he made to, having to really confirm of insecurity.
There has been the APC saying that it was actually a slip of tongue, that the man wanted to say he would provide you with security. But that said, Andrew, I want us to look at, as it is today in Edo State, for example, we keep talking about federal might, because for the APC and other parties now, of course, aside for the PDP and other parties aside the APC, the argument is federal might will come through for APC. In fact, there are those who argue that the APC in Edo State is relying on the fact that it is the ruling party at the federal level. But let's talk about what exactly, number one, what exactly is the, as they say in business, competitive advantage that your party, the PDP, and your candidates are bringing to the table. Fantastic. That's number one. Number two is it justifiable for the PDP in Edo States, of course led by Governor Obaseki, to say we are not signing the peace accord? And on what grounds do you find that justification?
Fantastic. What we're bringing to the table, as it stands right now, you could know, even our candidate, the PDP candidate, if you want to be fair to that guy, you will know that guy is not even a governorship material. That guy is a presidential product. That guy is somebody we should even be fighting, we should be begging to come and be president of this country. In fact, we're even doing injustice to Aswell. In fact, we are doing disservice to Aswell. We are not being fair to Aswell by even pushing him to come and contest for governor. We are reducing his personality. We are reducing his worth. The potential that Aswell possesses is a presidential potential, not even a governorship material. So we should even be apologizing to the man, because we practically begged him to come and contest. I can assure you that Edo people begged Aswell to come and govern them. Aswell did not even want to be a governor of Edo State because governor is too small for the caliber of person he is. So we begged him because right now he's one of the best candidates that this country, one of the best guys that this country ever produced. Have you seen the profile of that guy? He's somebody that other countries are begging to come and consult for them. We are reducing him to come and people that cannot even tie the lace of Aswell's shoe. They are debating with him. They are coming to share table with him. It's amazing. Sometimes I feel ashamed. I feel annoyed. I feel angry in my spirit that where Aswell stands, most of these guys cannot even, they won't even allow to come and serve water there. When Aswell is talking to President of Nations, the likes of Monday and Olumide Akpata will not be allowed into that environment, let alone sitting on the same table with him. But it's what it is. When it comes to politics, you have to drop all your certificate and worship even the illiterate. That's what it is. So Aswell pedigree is one of the best things that ever happened to this state. And if we miss this guy, I am sorry, I might even denounce being a citizen of this state. We must not miss him, because I don't have what to tell my children. I don't want to tell my generation yet unborn. What is most Edo people have not to give us this privilege? Somebody that president of nations are begging, somebody that even president of people are begging to come and become the president of this country. We are reducing him to a common state governor, and we are here debating it. It's a shame. I don't want to talk about that because Aswell is not even the same level that I'm going to discuss.
But we all know that, Andrew, you and the PDP alone, or any party for that matter, cannot determine that. We're going to leave it to Edo people to decide come the 21st of September.
All right, Andrew, there is a godfatherism factor also in this election.
Across the length and breadth of the states.
Andrew, are you with me?
Yeah, fully with you.
All right, there's a godfatherism factor in this election. People will say, Adams Oshimole brought Obaseki to power. Probably he supported Obaseki, and that was how he became governor. At second term of Godwin Obaseki, he disagreed with Adams Oshimole and went to People's Democratic Party on the grounds that the Edo people should reject godfatherism. And the people of Edo elected Godwin Obaseki. Godwin Obaseki, on this other hand, is bringing Aswell, and even when some people of your party are saying that Philip Shaibu probably was a good candidate. An elder candidate that he had, but he looks at Obaseki has an anointed candidate that he is imposing, that he had imposed on the, in the last primaries. People are saying, you are the one that disagreed with Senator Adams Oshimole over godfatherism. Why are you also having to impose a candidate on the people of Edo? Is it going back on his words?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. You know, for a fact, this is my state. This is where I was born and brought up. I've been in the politics of this state for a long time, for over 3 decades, and I understand the history and trajectory of Edo politics. Edo has 3 senatorial districts, 192 wards, 18 local governments. Among these 3 senatorial districts, of course, you know we have the Benin, which is Edo South, that have 7 local government. We have the FMI, which is the Edo North, that have 6 local government. Now we have the Asian people that have 5 local government, which we assume to be the minority. You understand? But the most politically sophisticated people in the state, although they are the minority, because they produce a lot of caliber of the likes of Atunianini, Aikomu, Inaholu, and the rest of them. That's the region. Now, Professor Sumbo and Professor Ambrosali and the rest of them came from other regions. Now, if you look at the tragedy, most of other regions have produced the governor. And if you take a look at the cultural history of Edo State, the Asian people, they are like a junior brother to the Benin people. They are closer to the Benin kingdom than even the Afema, if you want to go history-wise. Because the emergence of the Asian race were actually migrated from the Benin kingdom. So, of course, we call them a family. Benin is the elder brother of all the tribes in Edo State. Now, having every other tribe produce a governor, the elder brother felt there is a need for the younger brother too, at least to assume the corridor of power, so that we can have this place of equilibrium. Because there's place of equity, justice, and fairness. That's where the emergence of Aswa Ighodalo comes from, where the Asian people decide, where the Edo people decide to support an Asian candidate that produce an Aswa. Benin have produced the caliber of professors, solid political figures that have made Edo State proud. It's not the turn of Asian people. You cannot expect at the elder brother giving an Asian man, a younger brother, an opportunity, they misuse the opportunity. Every single opportunity that is given to anybody must be maximized. We call it opportunity in preparation, and that's what is about to happen to Edo State people, to the Asian race. That's what the emergence of. That's the reason why the Asian people said, Aswa Ighodalo emerging from the Asian race is the best that will ever happen to Edo State, because
so you feel he's not an anointed candidate of Godwin Obaseki, where some people, even in your party, have defected from the party recently. Philip Shaibu, you've lost Philip Shaibu, the deputy governor of the state, on the grounds of this imposition.
Can you listen to this statement? Obaseki cannot be a godfather to Aswa. Aswa is bigger than Obaseki. Aswa Ighodalo is bigger than every city, every candidate in those states today. Aswa Ighodalo is not a small boy. Aswa Ighodalo is not, I don't want to use the word governorship material. Obaseki is an embarrassment, is an abuse of a personality for somebody to say Obaseki is a godfather to Aswa. You don't say, if you say, the more you say it, the more Aswa get angry. We don't even want to hear that in this state. Obaseki cannot be a godfather to Aswa. Aswa is too big for Obaseki to be a godfather. Aswa was practically begged. Let me give you a shocker. Are you aware that Oshomole begged Aswa before now to come and be a just a governor? Aswa blatantly refused and said, I cannot be a governor because I have other bigger things and that is bigger than a state governor. Aswa gave us Obaseki to Oshomole, so Obaseki, just go and help them. I'll consult you from you at the back. Every achievement that Oshomole made today in Edo State was a result of Aswa's contribution. Aswa was part of Oshomole's economic team. Because Aswa's busy schedule, he decided to allow Obaseki to champion the economic team. Oshomole became a hero in Edo State in his first term because Aswa was the brain behind his achievement. Immediately Aswa was done, or Oshomole was done, they begged Aswa to take over. Aswa said, no, I don't want to. I am consulting foundations of the world. You can't reduce my personality to become a puppet in the state as a state governor. Let Obaseki take over. Obaseki don't. Now, consistently, Obaseki said, Aswa, if you felt you are from Edo State and you love your people, can you please come and serve your people? That was why Aswa dropped all his strength, reserved from all the multinationals, dropped everything he had, dropped all his ego. I said, okay, let me come and take this governor. Let me just prove to these people that governance is possible. Dividend democracy is possible. Actually making Edo State the world-class economy among nations of the world is possible. Let me give you a shocker. Do you know what Aswa want to do? Aswa want to make Edo State better than nations of the world. We are not, when Aswa made as a governor, we are not going to be competing with other states. We're going to be competing with other countries. That is our target. I want you to know that. We're bringing the best hands in the game. Quote me right or wrong. We are even going to hold ourselves accountable. That is how serious it is. Governance is a serious business. It's not for child. It's not mediocres. It's not where you do rhetorics. It's not a place you come. We don't do kalu in governance. These people are not ready. You don't think we are here to play? This election is for us to win. We are stakeholders in this place they call it those states, and we're going to ensure we deliver it. We own this place together. It does not belong to anybody. It's our father's land. All of us we're all from the same parents. So no, we don't issue of godfatherism. There is long gone. Oshomole is the one introducing godfatherism again by trying to impose his third-term agenda through Monday. Of course, you know that Monday is a puppet. Of course, you know that Monday is to be found. Oshomole just want to use Monday as a frontier so that he can from back and become a proxy governor, which will not arrive in the state. We have to
Andrew, let's just straighten out a few things quickly. But let me also do a very sharp reaction to the issue of Oshomole bringing Senator Monday Okpebholo as a threat.
Yes,
we understand even within the politics of the APC.
Before you do that reaction, let me quickly drop this. Let me quickly drop, lest I forget. Let me give you a shocker. Oshomole never even loved.
That's your third shocker on the program this morning.
Okay, I won't give you a shocker. Let me just see. Monday Okpebholo was never even Oshomole's candidate. Oshomole hatred for the Edo race is very clear. Denko was his candidate. Oshomole is being hypocritical, and you know that. All of a sudden, he just changed his mind and started supporting Monday. The Dome and Mock, they still supporting him. This is somebody that had betrayed a first-class king in the state. Somebody who doesn't have respect for any human being. Somebody who value power so much, who is power drunk. Is that the person you want me to hand over the sword of my state to? Oshomole have destroyed this state, caused ethnic divisions among everywhere. You want that person to come and be my godfather, be a governor in this state? You know that Monday cannot speak, Monday cannot read, Monday cannot write. Oshomole just want to use Monday as a means, as a yardstick to be a third-term governor. But we will not allow.
I think that's far-reaching, because we do know that Senator Monday Okpebholo can read and write. But let's not go into personal.
But you are not proving it. Can you invite him to your station? He will not come.
Is it not a senator representing one of the senatorial districts?
Andrew, let's even be clear. Apparently, it's your senator, regardless of party lines. But that's not what we are heading. We are wrapping up right now, right?
From my village, my brother. He's even from my village. Let me tell you something. Monday did not win that senatorial ticket. We gave him that mandate because we were angry with PDP. It was a protest vote.
Okay. I think the PDP would always say it's a family issue. So we'll leave it at that level. But let's talk about, as we wrap up now, let's talk about your party, the PDP. Now, supposing, I just said supposing, for the purpose of this discussion we're having on the program, that's Dr. Asue Ighodalo becomes the governor of the state. Of course, it's going to be
the next governor, not even becoming. The gods have settled it.
Okay. We'll leave that to God. So it's going to be the leader. Yeah, it's going to be the leader of your party in the states. But let's talk about your party for a second, the People's Democratic Party, PDP. As of today, the PDP is a house divided against itself, whether at the federal or state level. That's number one. Number two is some of the powerhouses of the PDP in the state have been suspended. Two of them, very cardinal. Being Chief Dan Osiobi, the leader of the PDP in the South, and then of course Mr. Philip Shaibu, the deputy governor. Another very prominent member of your party, talking about Dino Melaye, former senator representing Kogi West. For the second time in a few weeks, just said yesterday that the PDP will disintegrate if and when Dr. Asue Ighodalo becomes the governor, with a big if. What kind of PDP will he inherit in Edo State?
Thank you so much. You see, Asue is a unifier. If you meet Asue one-on-one, I promise your station, I hope his schedules are a little bit free. I will make sure I bring him on board. Asue is most humblest human being I've ever met on the planet of the earth. We call him the unifier. That's who he is. Even as we stand right now, irrespective of what they've done to the man, they've malign his name, they've destroyed his name, they do everything possible to frustrate him. Till now, Asue is still asking them to come. I will be where I want you. What kind of a human being are you? These people are bent on destroying you. You are still saying, don't worry, let's come together. For God's sake, they only have one vote. As it started, it's obvious to the blind man in Edo State, it's obvious to the deaf in Edo State that these people, they are just using them. as a footstone, as a stepping stone for their personal aggrandizement. They know, their followers know that. And yesterday, one of the core followers of those people reached out to me. Many of their followers, they're reaching out to me privately. We are very influential in the state now. We get influence for this state. You can't mention some people name it, don't mention them. It's not possible. So, as sister, many of them are reaching out to us that bro, put us for game now. I was just laughing at the line. Why would you go and waste your time for these men, political leaders that you know they are jobbers? They use you guys to trade. They trade in the morning, in the night, they go back and do something else. These are the same people you are putting interest in. Look, guys, I want you to understand one thing. We are not divided in Edo State. People will always tell you that I love Aso Ighodalo, every human being in Edo State. Have you just try and look at that narrative? Ask questions. Send your guys to Edo State. Ask them. What they will tell you, I just love Aso Ighodalo as a person. But because of Obaseki, you forgot the fact that Obaseki is not a ballot paper. They forgot the fact that Obaseki is going back to Harvard. On the other way,
as he said, he's going back to Harvard.
He's going back to school when he's done with his governor. He's going back to school. He has a lecturing job in the UK. He's going to take it up. So but these are not conventional politicians, and that's the state we are going to. We want to take Nigerian politics away from conventional politicians that use politics as a means of living. They don't have a second address. That is what we are trying to discourage. As it stands right now, people like me now, we don't depend on politics to survive now. So same thing with many of them. That's what we're trying to build. Let's see how we can build human potential, human capacity that don't depend on politics to survive. People that have a second address. Aso Ighodalo, with or without Edo State, is one of the richest guys.
We know you have a lot to say this morning, not just about the election in the state, but your party. But what I would like to say again, thank you for the sacrifice you made this morning to join us and lend your voice to this very important conversation.
Thank you so much. But quick one. I want you to please help us to beg security agency to let us have peace in the Edo State. They should stop being allowed. They should stop allowing themselves to be used by the federal government to intimidate and victimize the people they are supposed to protect. You understand? Right. Please help us to beg them. Our first sentence of the day, we want you guys to put eye on the Edo State and help us to shout. Because this Edo State, this election, now do or die, we are ready to put our life on the line. No. All right. This election, nobody will come and ring election in Edo State. It will not happen. No.
Yeah, election, not the fight. I'm sure you have heard that before, Andrew. But again, we say thank you so much for joining us, and you have a great day ahead of you.
But we are telling that it will not happen in Edo State.
No,
that's what we are telling them.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you so much, Andrew. What we give as a media and we are not for every political party. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning. All right, because we can't really exhaust concern in Edo, because just as we said, you know, the whole eyes right now is on INEC, because the Edo people know who they want. So we feel that if INEC can really encourage, you know, transparent election, I think that's the only confidence, and that's what Edo people are really asking of.
And it's a fair ask from Edo people. But incidentally, that's what we're leaving it on the program this morning. Everyone, thank you so very much for watching. We'd like to remind all of our viewers that all of the views on our programs, including Global Morning, are the opinions of our guests, and Global Television doesn't share in those views. I'm Muya Mofewe.
I'm Erika Michael. Thanks for watching, and stay with us.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.